Hey, everybody, welcome back to Chit Chat. I'm your host, Guy Magno. Thank you so much for listening. I just got done recording a really fun podcast all about ice cream and why making a good thing is worth it. So I had my friend David Boyer on. He runs Jupiter Moon in I guess they started in St. Joe, but they've now got a shop in St. Cloud and a couple kind of mobile options for events and all kinds of stuff. So you could have seen David and Jupiter Moon in lots of different places, but it was a really fun conversation about starting a business and caring about what you create and put into the world, and also about ice cream and why it's delicious and good. And maybe you've never even thought about, like, how do you make ice cream? We even touch on that a little bit so you can learn a little bit about the science behind making good ice cream too. But super fun conversation. I'm excited for you to hear it now. Mr. David Boyer.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It is wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
David, you run the most delicious ice cream called Jupiter Moon. Would you tell us a little bit about kind of who you are and why did you start an ice cream shop?
Sure, we can do that. I'm going to start it with a question, though.
Okay.
So I want to know what your favorite flavor of ice cream is.
Ever?
I'm going to actually, let's make it two questions.
Okay.
What is your favorite flavor as a 10-year-old boy?
Ooh, strawberry.
Strawberry. Okay.
Still to this day, a really chunky strawberry.
Okay.
It drives my wife crazy. She would really like to, when we go, she likes to share, just in general. She wants to share. And so she'd love to share ice cream, but like she can't do any of the fruity things. Like, and I like cherry, I like strawberry and cherry and just fruit. And she wants, something that's got a hunk of chocolate in it or something. So
Excellent. Okay. Second question.
yeah,
What's the memory associated with strawberry ice cream?
it's a great question.
'Cause there's one.
Yeah, I mean, I have a photo of it, of me and my grandpa. I was probably 4 or 5, and he wore these his pajamas. They were like a suit, kind of like they weren't silk, but they kind of looked like silk, and they buttoned.
Uh-huh.
And it makes it all sound like we all have like Versace in our mind now, like house kind of like leisure clothes that are like silk looking, and we think like Versace. This is not what he was wearing. They were very old man. Very old man and yellow. And I didn't have the same kind of thing, but I had yellow pajamas that I would wear with him, eating a little ice cream cone.
Strawberry ice cream.
With my grandpa Jim.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So then third question.
All right.
How did that make you feel when I asked you that?
Oh, it's so fun. I got to think about my grandpa and something as delicious as ice cream. Of course, it made me feel great.
That's why I did Jupiter Moon.
All right.
That's exactly why.
Cool. Well, that's great.
I wanted to make some place that was joyful. And I think ice cream is maybe the perfect vehicle for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard to feel sad
it is.
when you're eating ice cream.
It is.
Even if you're sad and like the sadness drives you to ice cream,
Right.
which is kind of a trope, right?
Right.
Like, oh,
It
I'm
is.
so sad. I lost my job, or,
But
got
in
broken
theory,
up with.
I mean, even if you're going to follow that through, in theory, you're going to live a little happier than when you started.
I think it's why you go to ice cream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like this never let me down. She let me down, but ice cream, you never have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. So that's why I do it. And that's why I will continue to do it.
Cool.
It makes me happy to see people embrace that and be part of that. Some of my best times at Jupiter Moon, now that we've been in a business for a while, are sort of the moments where I wasn't trying to actively curate it, even though I do a lot of that in my business. Like there's been wedding proposals at Jupiter Moon. I mean, that's, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
First dates, prom, things like that. One time we were at a hockey game and I heard somebody speaking about us, overheard it. They didn't know I was there. They didn't know who I was. And such beautiful words about this wonderful place that they feel is their favorite place. And it's like, well, that was awesome. So yeah, that's why I do it.
That's really fun. Really fun. And I mean, could I ask you the same questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to hear.
Okay. So
When you were 10?
10, I have my grandpa, Grandpa Homer.
For his first name was Homer?
Homer.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the best grandpa ever. And we would go to the ice cream parlor. It was called the ice cream parlor.
In what town?
Helena, Montana.
Okay.
So I grew up in Helena.
All right.
I was
I
there.
was born in Missoula.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, Montana boy.
There you go.
Nice.
Hey.
All right, rock on.
Yeah.
I was there till high school, 1 year college, then left. Never came back. One day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we go to the ice cream parlor, and it was always you know, it was prototypical.
Yeah.
It was a place, and it was very old school, like very like wire chairs with the backs, and the baseball helmet Sundays, and the Marituna cherries everywhere. I even think the servers wore like puffy shirts with the garters on their arms. It was very very old school. But yeah, always happy memory. And then the other one is that chocolate marshmallow, which we don't make at the store yet, because I haven't been able to reproduce my childhood ice cream. I want to be able to reproduce it before I put it out there. But we used to get milk, like milkman, bring milk in the morning, and he would bring ice cream as well. Yeah. And so there'd be ice cream on the porch, and it was always awesome because
it started to melt a little
we'd
bit.
have to get it before it melted in the morning, which meant we got ice cream for breakfast. Except when we forgot. And then it was a sad, sad day when we got home from school.
And just a droopy
mess. So yeah, definitely ice cream stories. And, you know, when I talk to people, they all have a story. Everybody has a story about ice cream. And it almost always involves a big smile on their face.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. And I mean, tell me a little bit more about Jupiter Moon. How long have you been running Jupiter Moon?
Sure.
And I guess maybe, would you tell us about the name too? How did you pick Jupiter Moon?
Absolutely. All right. So we'll start with the name because it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
There's two stories. One's
the real one.
One's the real one, and one's the fake one.
All right, good.
I won't tell you which one's which.
Right.
So we have friends. They're at NASA. In fact, true story is that now that we've been out in the world and at events and things like that, we've actually had NASA people come and talk to us about the name, which is kind of cool. So we truly do now have friends at NASA.
Yeah.
And in 2016, they launched the Juno probe. Juno probe is now circling Jupiter right now. It's discovered a whole lot about Jupiter, including a number of moons. I think there was 60 some before it got there. There's over 90 now.
Wow.
Most of them are tiny little things. However, we've been assured by those friends at NASA that with all this high-tech sensors and things of that nature, that one of those moons is made of ice cream.
Really?
So there you go.
Fantastic.
If ours is made of cheese, it just makes sense. It's a dairy
universe.
Yes.
Oh, what a great world. What a great universe.
Yeah, and the fake story is it's a good URL.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah, or the real story actually.
Well, that's great. When did you guys launch? Oh, so, I remember you were supposed to launch like spring of 2020.
So the company started in 2019.
Okay.
On an ice cream bicycle.
Yep.
Ice cream bicycle was purposely chosen because, you know, going back to our conversation about joy, it's a really good form factor. We didn't get the bicycle because I wanted to ride around and do ice cream. It's because people look at the bicycle and go, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing! It's so cute." And in fact, we still use that bicycle to this day a lot. And so it was the form factor. It was the sort of the affordable form factor that had that bubble of joy that goes with it. And I could start in a sort of small hobby sort of fashion with that bike. And we rented a kitchen and made ice cream in the rented kitchen, just in cups, and did events. So, Summertime by George, Art Crawl, things like that.
Yeah.
The very first event I did was at Copper Pony. On their second birthday. They had the second birthday celebration at their store. So their birthday and our birthday were at the same because of that. And we were there just to sell ice cream to help them celebrate. And that very first day, like within an hour of our first cup given away, somebody approached me and said, "Hey, we have this space. We'd like you to see if you wanted to sublease and open a brick and mortar."
On day one?
On day one, like an hour into it. It was like, it's a little early yet. We'll think about it. But that conversation was still out there. By the end of the year, I had agreed to that. And so we took over the space that Bad Habit Brewing was in, their first space in St. Joe. I was supposed to sign the lease on that on March 8th, I think, 2020. And I think right around that day was when the world fell apart officially. And so we held off signing the lease, which had its benefits. Obviously, I didn't get myself in the middle of the beginning of it. But what it did mean is that we got much better financing because there was lots of incentives to keep businesses going by the middle of the summer. And so by July, I think July 7th, actually, is I think when we officially put a name on a lease and started that shop. But that shop didn't open until October of 2020. Because of build out and things of that nature.
Even June to October, so that's pretty quick.
It was very quick. I mean, in the scope of commercial build outs, it's pretty quick. And it was really good, actually. I felt really sad that we didn't get open during the summer because ice cream season is so short. Yeah. It's really like only really 2 real strong months and then 2 sort of okay months. And then
is it July and August? or June and July?
June and July, and August drops. People's mindsets switch in August, and they start thinking, since it's back to school, ice cream sales drop. And so we missed that. But in hindsight, if I would have opened in the middle of the summer, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I didn't know enough.
Yeah.
I didn't have my processes down. I didn't know how to handle that sort of. So opening in the off season was really beneficial in that regard. I wouldn't have done it that way, but I'm kind of glad it happened.
Yeah. I have so many of those exact things in entrepreneurship of like, man, if I was writing it, I wouldn't have written that, but man, am I happy that it happened like that.
It worked out well. And actually COVID wasn't bad for us that first year. You never know because you didn't have anything to parachute it against since your first year. But we did a lot of pints and quarts, actually just pints. We didn't quarts yet, but just sold more than we had ever expected to. It wasn't really part of the business plan. We sold a lot of them. A lot of people grabbing comfort, grab and go. And because we were also being able to control the build out during COVID regulations, we also built out the shop to adhere to those. So we had less tables. We just purposely built that in. We put a walk-up window in, which wasn't going to be part of the original build out, things like that. So we never actually had to shut the doors during COVID.
The walk-up window is like one of my favorite things about your shop.
Anyway. Oh, really?
Like in the summer, if I don't have to go inside, I don't want to go inside. You know, like you have a great patio, and so being able just to like stay outside the whole time, I love that.
Have you been to the patio this summer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got new tables and umbrellas, and it's even nicer space than it used to be.
I always sit kind of in the back, kind of in the big. There's kind of a big circle, kind of in that back corner. That's usually. I'm a human, so I love ice cream too. But even if I didn't enjoy ice cream, I would, I think, frequent your shop because my children, they absolutely love it. And my son he's a little more picky than my daughter, and he likes really basic things like his food. He doesn't want the food to touch. You know, he's
I know that kid.
Yeah, yeah. We've all met a kid like that. So, but his palate is like it's pretty vanilla, with the exception of lemon poppy seed. It is his absolute favorite ice cream.
Mine too. It's my favorite flavor that we make.
But it's like for James, like it sounds weird. And so I convinced him one of the first times we were there. I was like, buddy, I think you should just give it a shot. It's really good. And now he gets it every time. He mixes it with chocolate. He likes,
which is underrated.
Yeah.
Kudos to James. Yeah. I think one of the best combo flavor wise is lemon and chocolate.
I can't wait to tell him or have him listen to this.
Yeah, it is a fantastic combo. It's very European. Like in Italy, that's often a combo. And you've had it before. You probably have had lemon cake with chocolate frosting.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And so it's not an unusual thing. But when I tell people that on ice cream, a lot of times they give me this strange look. It's like, no, it's awesome. You should really try it.
And like little candies and stuff, like citrus, like little citrus candies dipped in chocolate. Again, also very European. But
yeah, very cool. Wow. Kudos to James.
All right.
That's awesome.
I think that's, again, bummer that COVID slowed some stuff down for you, but I'm happy that we got the outside window because of that.
You got the outside window of that. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. And the second summer came around and we were ready. So it was good to have that break. And then that was kind of a booming summer. Yeah. And then after that, we added an ice cream trailer, which I say trailer because it is technically a trailer.
It doesn't look like a
trailer.
But
it doesn't look like a trailer. It's like a truck. In fact, I have to, in all my sort of correspondence, it's all quotes or parentheses. It's actually a truck, closed parentheses. And it's important because sometimes it's hard to get into places because it is a trailer. I can't drive in. I have to pull in. You can't
actually drive it.
But yeah, it looks just like a old French panel van. Looks like a Citroen panel van, but it's brand new. It's not brand new anymore. It came brand new, bought it brand new from a company in Argentina and had it imported from a company in Miami, and they trucked it up here. All the electrical had to be ripped out of it because it doesn't match Minnesota electrical specs. But other than that, it was pretty turnkey, and that's been a real strong part of our business since.
That's really, really neat. Yeah. I love showing up places, and it feels like if it's in the summer in central Minnesota and outside where people are gathering, I often will find you and your people and your van, the trailer, which is super, super fun.
Yeah, I think we talked about joy and being part of that. I think one of the reasons that I want to also do a business, and I'm going to guess you have this same feeling, is that if you're going to be part of a community, you want to add to it. And that may be a little counterintuitive in terms of business, because sometimes a business is purely from benefiting from the community as opposed to adding to it. But
Sure.
I don't think that really is the case for businesses that, especially hospitality businesses. It's a big part of it. We cultivate a family, and there are my regulars. There's the people that we do weddings for. There's events that we go out to, birthday parties and graduation parties, and just people in the shop. And I think adding to that community is a real strong reason I want to do it and be part of it. And the trailer is a real awesome way to do that. And the bike, actually almost even more the bike.
Just because it looks so fun?
Well, it's just because, like, as an example, I mean, just the pure closeness to the community. I did a wedding the other day, awesome wedding, beautifully lit, but they wanted the bike on the dance floor.
That's great.
Which was kind of fun, but it was also a little strange. I'm standing there like, want some ice cream? Am I supposed to dance? I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
You just kind of like bike around?
Well, I just kind of stood there like, I just didn't know what to do. It was just like, can I go to the corner? This is strange. But to that end, they wanted that. They wanted that focus of it. And it was fun. It was super fun.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. We just added another bicycle to the mix.
Oh, really? Is it the same as the first one?
No, it's a little different. This one, the one we have now is very simple. It doesn't have, we use cold plates in it, specialized cold plates that freeze at -6. And so they keep the ice cream cold in there. It's the advantage to that is it's drop dead simple. You freeze the cold plates, you put them in there, and then you have frozen ice cream.
There's no power. So there's no power.
There's no power. This new one is a little more complex. It has an actual mechanical freezer on it. Still getting it set up, so we'll knock on wood. It's going to work like I hope it want it to work. But
so you won't have to pull anything in and out of it. You just charge. You basically plug it in and
you plug it in, and then you don't charge. You just plug it in, and then it has an onboard battery.
Okay.
If it keeps it cold enough, like I want it to, we'll be able to scoop it events out of it. Where the bike we have, the old bike is really cups and ice cream sandwiches. There is something very happy and visceral about receiving that cone. It's what a lot of the memories are made of. Not a lot of people have the memory of the ice cream cup
with a little wooden spoon.
Right. I mean, it's very cool and it's a nice way to do it, but it doesn't have the same emotional impact. So I'm hoping to scoop at things with that. We do a scooping setup now where we will take Crocs and set them up on a table and things like that. And we can really make a nice table and sundae bar for you, but it is so many little bits and pieces to set up, and so just simplify it and sort of maintain that form factor. So I'm excited about that.
That's really, really sweet.
Yeah.
And you guys just opened at Munsinger
Gardens.
Yeah.
Munsinger Clemens Gardens, to be precise about it.
And this is your first year there. And I mean, how has that been going?
It's been going really well. Super excited about that spot. We talked about build out time. Build out time there was extremely fast.
Yeah.
We did it in about 2 months, which was way more compressed than I would have liked it to have been. But we opened in middle of June, roughly. Yeah. Middle of June was a little rough because it just wouldn't stop raining. Yeah. But once the sun came out, people definitely showed up. Good. That spot is super dependent on the weather, obviously. Yeah. You're in the middle of the gardens. There's you can't park near the store. Rather, you have to park and walk to it. And so if it's raining, nobody's coming in. Yeah. But when it's nice out, it's really, really nice. And we have coffee there as well. So espressos and cappuccinos and things of that nature have your coffee there as well.
Cool. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cassie and I, our anniversary is in June, and sometimes we like to get away, but it just happened that this year we were here in St. Cloud, and so we went and had dinner, and then we went just to go walk at the gardens, which was so fun. And of course, because we were celebrating our anniversary, which is joyous, we got ice cream.
Sweet.
And it was an absolute treat. We sat on kind of the patio on the deck there. We sat there for a while, and then went and walked down, through the gardens and then through the river. It was such a fun combination to be at the gardens with fresh, awesome ice cream. Yeah. It was a really great combo.
Yeah. I think it's going to be, we're working through some of as any new businesses, it's sort of the little issues that you have. Sure. But we're getting through those, and it's turning into a really sweet spot.
Well, as a consumer, I didn't feel or experience any of whatever that is. It was just a nice experience.
Well, it's a lovely problem to have. We can't make enough ice cream. Is what it boils down to.
Got it.
Yeah, and so we've had a very busy summer, and that's where we're business-wise, where I'm sort of at. And I've been at this spot before where I can't make any more ice cream, and then we find some way to squeeze more production out of our current environment. But I really think we've squeezed it as hard as we can. I don't think I can get any more out of it. Yeah. We have to find more space to make more ice cream. Yeah. And the garden shop, wonderfully so, is, making that
Also
problem
pulling, yeah.
very, very obvious.
Well, congratulations. What a great problem to have.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So in the past, I've heard you kind of talk about some of like the science of ice cream. And would you just maybe unpack a little bit of that?
Sure.
I think most people maybe don't really have an idea of like how ice cream is made, or the fact that there's like good and less good or bad ice cream.
Yeah.
And just talk a little bit about that process.
From a technical point of view, when you go to like McDonald's as an example, and you get a swirl cone, or Wendy's and you get a Frosty, that's technically not ice cream.
Ice milk.
It's frozen dessert.
Okay.
Which is just a blanket term that I think the FDA puts on things. And it's under 10% butterfat. Under 10% butterfat, it can't be called ice cream.
Okay.
And so from 10% and above, you get your ice cream. And then there's different sort of variations of that. 12% is just quote unquote ice cream. And then you get in the 14 to 16, you get into premium ice cream. And this isn't official. This is sort of like industry lingo. And then at 18%, it's like super premium. As ice cream makers, everybody has sort of their preference. Yeah. My preference is 14% butterfat, and that's what we make our ice cream at. And I believe that's the sweet spot for both creaminess and richness of the butterfat in there, but also fat has a tendency, like dairy, will have a tendency to mute flavors. And I like my flavors to be punchy. We make fairly punchy ice cream in terms of flavor. If we use more butterfat in that, it sort of drowns that out. It does. It just kind of mutes it. And so...
Does it also give a little... Is that where you get every once in a while you get like... With some ice creams, you get almost like a film or something?
That's exactly what it is. Okay. It's like buttermouth is what they call that.
All right.
And so, it's like you eat 18% ice cream.
And you know it.
It's very rich. It's very creamy. It probably doesn't have a strong flavor. It probably has a relatively subtle muted flavor, but and it's super, super rich. And you probably get that like film in your mouth, and probably you do. It's not my favorite. I really like it to be a little less, and I think 14% is that sweet spot. It doesn't mean that 18% is bad ice cream. It doesn't mean that even like 8-9% is bad either.
It's just different.
It's different, and then when you get down to that 8-9%, that's often where gelatos are made, and gelatos are different ice cream, and that they have a lower butterfat content. They also typically have less sugar in them as well. Not always, depends on who's making it. European gelato, to be specific. American gelato is
so sweet.
Who knows what it is, actually. It's just a name they put on something that really isn't gelato. True gelato is made every day and thrown away every day if you don't use it. It's never frozen hard. It's always kind of a soft serve consistency. It has that lower butterfat, so it can have very bright flavors, a lot of fruity flavors in gelatos because of that. We don't make gelato. We make American hard pack is the technical term for what we make. And it consists really of, 4 different main components. There's the sugar, the fat. Those are the 2 big ones. And then depending on what type of ice cream is, there's a stabilizer in it typically as well. And that can be lots of different things. And like when you made ice cream at your grandparents' house probably it could have been an egg. Or sometimes cream cheese is used. And cream cheese works really well because it is almost kind of a natural stabilizer, but also it has guar gum typically in it, which is a lot of what stabilizers are made of. And then there's a 4th element that always surprises people, and that's air. Ice cream has to have some air in it. If it didn't have some air in it, it would be just a frozen block of milk is what it would be. And so the amount of air that's whipped into ice cream is called the overrun. And good and bad ice cream can be judged on a very crude scale of how much overrun is in it. Premium ice cream typically has less overrun. It's not always true. But if you go to the grocery store and you are shopping for ice cream and you look at the expensive ones and the cheap ones, just from a price point of view, pick them up, pick those containers up, see how much they weigh. You'll find that the cheap ones typically weigh about half as much as the good ones, and that's because they have much more air in them.
And so the ounces are no different.
The volume is
the volume doesn't change at all.
Right. Right. And so you sometimes get slow churned, which I don't know what that means, and it's like 50% less fat. Well, 50% less fat means 50% more air is what it means. And so you get way more air whipped into it.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And so it isn't, I think, a really good gauge of the quality of ice cream, because there are plenty of good ice creams that have a high overrun. And there are some ice creams that have low overrun that are just, well, in my opinion. Ours vary. We're somewhere in that 30 to 40. We don't really measure it ever, so can't give you exact, but that's generally where we typically fall. And we know that just from the volume increase that we get.
Sure.
Because when we make ice cream, it gets whipped up. And so we know how much product we put in the machine and we know how much comes out, and more comes out than we put in. So that's the difference, is the air that gets whipped into it.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's super fun. The science is pretty cool. There's a couple other really key components, and that's how much you can remove the water or minimize the water in the ice cream. And water equals ice.
Like the kind of the crystal-y.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's important when you make ice cream that you account for the water the best you can. And there's a number of ways to account for it. One of them is to make sure there's a lot of sugar in it. And so sugar, there's two types of sugar. There's a monosaccharide sugar and a disaccharide sugar. And really that just means one or two molecules, one or two sugar molecules tied together. If you think about this in terms of like people, like let's say a single person is a monosaccharide. That single person has two hands. That person could carry two water molecules. If you think about it, disaccharide as a couple,
they've got four hands.
Well, they do, but they're holding hands. So they've lost two hands to carry things with. And so really a monosaccharide and a disaccharide can hold the same amount of water, but you need double the amount of disaccharides to carry to equal. And so it's basically half as much. And so you want ice cream to typically use a monosaccharide sugar. And those white sugar's a disaccharide, but like the reason that corn syrup is often used in ice cream is that it's a monosaccharide. And so it holds more water. It means it's creamier, and actually corn syrup works really well in ice cream. We don't use corn syrup in ice cream. We try to keep a clean label as best we can, so we don't use it, but it does make a really good ice cream. What you can do is use an inverted sugar. An inverted sugar really just means that you break those bonds. So you can take white sugar and add lemon juice to it and let it sit. It's going to turn into this white goopy mess, and it's going to break up those bonds and turn it into a monosaccharide. And that sort of goopy mess you could use then. And you can buy like pre-made inverted sugars. We don't typically worry about it too much because we don't add too much sugar to our ice creams. We use a pre-made mix. One day we'll make our own mix, but that's like an order of magnitude in production beyond what we do. So we use a company out of Wisconsin that actually provides us a mix, and that mix includes the milk, the cream, the sugar, the stabilizer, which is whole egg in our case, and a little bit of guar gum. And that's all that's in our mix. And then
you're developing your recipes and flavor profiles.
And we develop on top of that.
Okay.
Yeah. We're almost big enough to where we use enough mix in a season that we could order custom mix, a custom blend, which we might do.
And would you start with just like the ice creams that sell the most?
So the mix is the base of everything dairy. And then we modify on top of that. So we could change our base dairy formula if we wanted to.
So you're not saying like a base that would include your flavor in it.
No, just basically the ratios.
You could just tweak what
we wanted to make our own Jupiter Moon base. There hasn't, to be honest, so if we get to that point, I'm really happy with our mix. One of the benefits that we have of where we live is that we have options, and I really believe the mix that we have is the best in the nation. And I can say that because I've gone to conferences and tasted other mixes and decided that, I really like this one a lot. It's like, it's available. So that's why we use it.
What is an ice cream purveyor's convention like? Is it just happy and fun and everybody's eating ice cream all the time?
So it's a couple of things, like more than a couple actually. It is really fun. When I started the business, so there's an ice cream organization. It's called North American Ice Cream Association. I think it is NICA. It used to be NICRA, North American Ice Cream Retailers Association. Everybody still calls it NICRA. Nobody can get over the new acronym.
Change is hard.
So everybody just says NICRA, even though it's not NICRA anymore. And when I was deciding that I wanted to do ice cream, because ice cream really did spring out of, I want to do something joyful, not that I want to make ice cream. And ice cream became in that second. It's like, well, how do I learn how to do this? I bought some books. I have a science degree background, and so I got into the science of it and realized I should maybe take a class. learn how to do this. I looked around the classes that were available. I wasn't too impressed with. And so I thought, well, maybe I should find a mentor. And the best way to do that was, well, here's a whole organization full of them. And I decided to go to their conference. Pretty low risk, one-time thing. And, if nothing else, I got a free trip out of it, not free, a paid trip out of it to Colorado and had a good time. I met the nicest people in the world. Ice cream people are the nicest people in the world. They're very, very open to share and help and willing to help you in your journey because they've been there. Yeah. They get some of the challenges that you're not going to know till you know, and they're very kind about that. But that I wouldn't be an ice cream maker or an ice cream business owner if I hadn't gone to that conference that first year. And I made some amazing friends. I made some friends, two guys, Dave and Sheldon, they own Skipper Dipper in Long Beach, New York. I've never been there yet. It's on my plans to go and visit them. They do, oh my gosh, the amount of traffic they get is just astronomical because they're on the Atlantic Ocean, right on the boardwalk, and they just go through this massive amount of ice cream, and they were more than willing to tell me the horror stories and the good things and how to do this, and they're amazing people. And I met a really good friend. Her name is Layla, and she owns Ice Cream Social in Tacoma, Washington. I actually went and spent a week in Tacoma, worked in her shop, looked at her stuff. She opened everything up to me. Here's my books. Here's how I do it. Here's how I do hiring. Whenever I needed any sort of guidance on, because she's been there and done it. And she has 3 shops, very successful, very similar business model to mine in terms of how I run it. I really based it off of sort of her advice and her shops. That's all because of NICRA. And so the ice cream convention is a great place to meet those people. Then also it is just super fun. We do, they do an ice cream tasting, a contest. I've only entered once.
How do you get your ice cream there? Like a dry ice kind of thing?
You have to dry ice. It's a very, so to get to it is a competition. It's a big deal. So it has to go through these certain procedures to get it there. But you make the ice cream, you pack it in a special container, you get it certified and mailed to them via dry ice and all that, or via FedEx on dry ice rather. And then what they do is they set up rows of tables, and there are hundreds of ice creams there. And you get your handful of little taster spoons and your sheet, and you just start going down the row. And they're all, they may have the flavor name on them, and sometimes the name is very descriptive. Sometimes they're not, so you don't quite know. And you rank them as you go. And at the end of the day, you come up with 5 that you think are the top, and then they aggregate those and come up with the winners. And there are some crazy good ice cream, and there is also, it's interesting enough, there's some crazy bad ice cream too. Ooh, who was thinking this was going to win? And is
it usually when you're thinking that it's because it's like a flavor combination that just didn't work, or they just don't understand actually how to make good ice cream?
Yeah, it's usually the latter. It's not something went awry, or they're. It's not usually like the crazy flavor combos actually are welcomed by this crew, because you're getting judged by your peers of other ice cream makers.
And they've had all the normal flavors 1,000 times. Right.
Show me this sort of like lychee lemonade with pine nuts. Absolutely. Give me some of that. That's fantastic. Give me another sort of like strawberry. It's like, well, strawberry is great, but I've tasted 100 strawberries today, and how does it, although I should say that they do break it up into 2 different categories. They have chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry as their own categories, so their own sort of classics, and then they have everything else, the best new flavor. So you'll see a lot of interesting things over there. The one that won the last year I was at the contest was Ritzy as AF was what it was called. And it was used Ritz crackers, and it had that sort of salt, and then they had chocolate in it, and it was amazing.
Was it so good?
It was so good. Yeah, made by Holy Cow Ice Cream out of, I want to say, New Jersey.
Cool.
In fact, I will maybe try to do my own spin on it at some point. It was very, very good. There's also some non-dairy that they do in that, and then there's some mango sorbets that I tasted that are just, oh my gosh, so good, so good. But yeah, people eat so much ice cream that day. Like as a taster, you come away with like, oof, that was a lot of ice cream.
I should go for a walk.
But very, very cool. And you do that, and there's all sorts of classes at those conferences and conventions. Everything from how do you get your truck at events to how do you do basic bookkeeping, or
just all the business stuff.
All the business stuff. How do you, what are good promotions to run for an ice cream shop, as opposed to promotions that people think are good but aren't. Some of those in the trenches sort of.
It's so great to have that kind of that camaraderie of, I've been here before, I'm in the middle of doing it, and there is something kind of fun about the commiserating that can happen with people who are in your industry.
Absolutely.
Every once in a while, we like to have lunch with other agencies and stuff. And it's just fun to like just sit and like, oh yeah, can you believe that kind of, just for people that are kind of in the know.
Yeah.
It's just really, really nice.
In the know. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
I love that.
And every business has their sort of like
Of course.
horror stories and like special little things that nobody else knows about that you get to talk about. So that's a whole week of that and super fun. In fact, I would highly recommend, even if you're not an ice cream maker, because you can go as John Q. Public. It's not cheap, but it's so fun.
Is it like always in Vegas or does it
No,
move around?
it moves east to west every year. So like, and they go bink, bink, bink across and they go back. So this year it's in Savannah. And like the last one they had, I think last year was Vegas, and then they went back to the East Coast, and then it's like before last year, then it was like Dallas, and so they just kind of move always, and it's always in a warm weather climate. Like you'll never ever come to Minnesota.
Right. Savannah's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going this year. I didn't go last year, but I'm going this year. It's for always like the second week in November.
All right. Well, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I have a funny story about that place.
About Savannah or about
the ice cream convention.
Okay.
So the first year I went, a newbie, and like
didn't even have Jupiter Moon yet.
Didn't have Jupiter Moon. This was 2018 before I opened the shop, and it's just an idea of thinking about it. Didn't have the bike yet. Didn't have anything yet. Just I want to get into the business. I know I want to maybe make my own ice cream. Let's go find some people to talk to about. Went, and I ran into this elderly woman. I don't remember her name. I want to say it was Rose, but can't remember if this was or not. But I ran into Rose a number of times. Always by myself, like never with anybody else. And she had an ice cream shop somewhere in upstate New York forever with her husband, and it had burned down. And she'd always come to the NICRA convention, and she was coming again. And she was, I'm going to guess, 80 something, just a tiny, tiny little person. And always like there to grab my arm and like talk to me. And then she'd like, oh, you need to go talk to those people. And she'd push me over to go talk to somebody. And she would like always fill me for these little nuggets. And then I was talking to somebody else who had the same experience, and she's like this little like elderly ice cream fairy, sort of guiding people around. But then I would talk to people about there, and nobody knew who she was. I'm kind of convinced I ran into an ice cream ghost.
There you go.
just a little bit, because I ran into her in the elevator.
You should name an ice cream someday after Rose.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it's like. The store burned down. Her husband passed away a number of years ago. I can't ever remember having a conversation with her in any other, like, except by myself. Yeah. She always just appeared and then just disappeared. It was the strangest thing. But yeah.
Well, so fun. What's next for A Joy Purveyor?
So next thing. Well, we've talked a lot about Munsinger, blowing that out more. This year we did a number of events in the ice cream truck/trailer in Minneapolis. Did a really big one. We did the USA Gymnastics event where they set the final team was at the Target Center. It was into June. It kind of was an event that just sort of came to us. I didn't apply for it. They found us. It was amazing. It was just super amazing. Right downtown Minneapolis, right in front of Orchestra Hall. We were set up. We did that for 4 days, and just had a blast. And basically emptied the trailer every day. It was super fun, and it really opened my eyes to. I really need to expand beyond Central Minnesota as well, and do more events down there. So that's going to be somewhat of next year as well, as pushing the borders of how far I travel with that trailer for events like that. Definitely bigger ones. It was really big, and so I've always been hesitant of how big an event can we handle. I've figured it out that we can handle a pretty big event as long as we know it's coming and we can make enough ice cream. Ice cream has a distinct advantage of that. Once we make it, it can hang out for a while. So we can do that. So I want to do bigger events. And bigger, I mean 5,000, 6,000 people events, or even bigger than that. That's on the radar. And then also just trying to find a way to increase our production. It might mean a new location for our kitchen. It might mean expanding the current kitchen. That's always a challenge because that involves like busting down walls and things of that nature.
Then you got to close for a while.
And I would love to have a new kitchen that I owned as opposed to leased from a business owner point of view. Don't know how that would happen or when that happened, but that'll be a big thing. Going to be applying to some grants hopefully this fall for some. There's a number of dairy grants out there that could help with business expansion in terms of producing ice cream. that point of view. And then the other big one I'm really excited about is more partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to partner, and it's tough because sometimes partnering might just mean like example, Stearns Bank the other day contacted us and they wanted to celebrate National Ice Cream Day, which was awesome. We were going to celebrate Ice Cream Day, so it obviously, and they said, well, we'd like to commission you to make us a flavor. And so we made a flavor for them called Cash Cow. And it's a coffee caramel flavor. It's fantastic. And we set up outside their bank and had a wonderful day. And they were super excited about it. And so more of that, and then also using more local ingredients when I can. Yeah. There's always a balance in ice cream world of production. We could make an amazing, uberly complex flavor that just production-wise is not sustainable. And we've done that in the past. It ends up like, well, we can't do that because we just can't make it fast enough. It's not cost effective. But using more ingredients that allow for that production ease. Redheaded Creamery out of Bruton. We've been making ice cream with their cheese lately. We made one this summer, a lime one with their cotija cheese in it. So good. So good. So things like that. Those are always exciting. More partnerships. Bring those on always.
In your store, could you, let's just say there was one of these ice creams that had a lot more production demands in it. Could you charge $1 more?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a limited run. So yes, we could for sure. We do charge on a few ice creams. We do charge a little more. Typically the ones right now, the one we charge more on is we use the Girl Scout cookies in it. And then we give that extra bump that we charge back to the Girl Scouts. Easy partnership, and they get us cookies. They get a little money for them. And so it's a win-win. We could certainly do that. The challenge becomes, is $1 enough?
Sure.
Sometimes it's not.
Right.
Like we've made some with some ingredients that are just amazing, but like this is the most expensive ice cream in the world now. And I can't, it's not sustainable. I think that's a challenge I think ice cream has in general. It might be exacerbated here in central Minnesota, is that there is some sort of notion that ice cream is cheap. It's because it's easy, that it should be inexpensive. And whether that's because we're conditioned to like, the little cups or what it is, it's not. It's handcrafted ice cream's expensive. Or at least expensive to make. And so you have to charge accordingly. And we're not super expensive. I think we're very much reasonable, but it is a challenge to get that right balance between value and the cost of production. Yeah.
I mean, we walk through those same things with coffee.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there are green coffees that haven't been roasted. There's no time, no energy from your side that have been put into it. That cost just for the green coffee, they cost more than what we charge for roasted coffee.
Right.
Those are really awesome coffees. They're really, really neat. They're complex and unique and similar to, I mean, really everything that you just said in relationship to like what ice cream could be. We have some of those same things where it's like, so how do you find a really, really great coffee that fits your brand and, it's still a really good product, but fits a price point that you can actually sell.
Exactly.
And get to people.
And that's common on all businesses to some degree. I think you probably have you're probably very aware this coffee is an example too. There's a notion in people's mind how much coffee should cost to them. And if they're comparing you to like gas station coffee, which some do, it's extremely expensive. And some people compare you to like, they know what you're worth and it isn't. It's how to have that conversation and explain that. It's one of the reasons that my shop is set up the way it's set up actually, is that you can't see my ice cream. It's underneath covers. And that was very purposeful. It was so I could have that conversation. I could tell you about my ice cream. I could talk to you through flavors. I can tell you how it was made. I can tell you what the favorites are. It helps initiate that conversation. If you can see my ice creams, which I don't dislike, but it means that the conversation becomes really more about the visual appearance of the ice cream, which is part of it. But I want that visual appearance to be when you have it in your cone, not when you're looking down at it. We also don't do samples. Which is kind of, it's controversial in the ice cream world. At Nyker, we actually talk about this a lot. Do you do samples? Most ice cream shops do. I do not. And I didn't do it because we opened during COVID, which makes sense. But I never started after that. After COVID left, I didn't kick it in and say, we're going to do samples now. What I'd much rather do is have you try the ice cream, take a risk, and I will absolutely, no questions asked, get you another cone, even two, if you want another one. I would much rather do that. It's not going to, I would much rather give you something you like, even if you had a sample and got something you like, I would do it as well. On occasion, somebody will come in and like take a lick and then hand it back to me. That's going to happen, but it's rare, very, very rare. By not doing the samples, it means that I have more control over my product a little bit too. Having that little spoon in it, even though it's just a little spoon, it slows things down.
Sure.
It means that the cabinets open longer. It reduces the quality of the ice cream. There's all sorts of reasons that it's not necessarily a good thing. And also, I don't think it changes people's minds, to be honest.
I don't know if I have ever tried a sample of ice cream and then went with the one that I sampled. Like, I think I usually know what I would like to get.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, that's a weird or interesting flavor kind of. I just kind of want to try it. But I don't know if I've ever been like, oh, this for sure, this little sample has overcome my love or desire for whatever that one is.
I've thought about this. Izzy's used to do the Izzy Scoop. Izzy's was out of Minneapolis. They closed a few years ago. And the Izzy Scoop was a little tiny scoop on top of your other one.
Yeah. I
haven't done it because it's not like they have copyright on it, but it's their thing.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about maybe I could do something like that, like for 25%, 20 cents more, 25 cents more, I'll put a little tiny dollop on
and
top.
So like you could try
you could try that other crazy one. But we offer a split single, which is just a single split into two. Yep. That's an easy way to do it. Yeah. And so I don't get defensive about it, but people sometimes look at me like I'm crazy as I do samples.
I think one of the weird things with the sample is like when you reach for it, like the spoon is so short. Your fingers might be sticky. They're gloved. Yep. They're gloved, but like I don't want to get what's on your hand, not because I think it's dirty, but because it's sticky. I'm not trying to get that. And then also it's like if I touch your hand, technically, like you should now change your gloves.
You should, a lot of restaurants don't adhere like to their cleanliness standards. Our kitchen, and I would gladly take anybody who doesn't believe this and put our kitchen against anybody else's. I think our kitchen is probably the cleanest around. It is super clean. We mop sometimes twice a day or more, and we're really strict about our cleanliness policies, more so than any other ice cream shop I've been in, actually. We adhere to dairy plant level, which we have to. And there's different categories of dairy plant, A and B and all that. And we adhere almost to A grade, but we're not an A grade plant. We're a B grade plant because we don't do the pasteurization that because we have the mix come in. We don't do pasteurization. That's why we don't do it. The glove thing, like everybody wears gloves at our shop. Anytime they're going to touch anything not whether they're going to touch the food or anything that they're going to touch is going to come contact with food. That's not required. Like scoopers, like you can go to ice cream shops and find scoopers without gloves. They technically don't have to wear them because they're not touching the product.
Sure.
If the cone comes wrapped, they don't have to wear a glove. The scooper itself isn't going to touch the ice cream, but we do. And it freaks me out when ice cream shops don't, actually. And you're very right about the whole sample thing. That's one of the reasons we don't do it is that we would have to re-glove, I think, every time, unless we find a way to like set the sample down in front of them so they can take it. Right. In fact, when you get the ice cream at our shop, often, depends on how busy it is. So we try to have all our scoopers do it. I know it doesn't happen every time, depending on busyness.
We put it in
put it in a holder so you can pick it up. Sometimes, just because of the nature of going back and forth, it does get handed over. And then we ask them to re-glove.
Okay, so David, someone that works on or makes shoes is called a cobbler.
Yes.
Is there a name?
I don't think there is.
For an ice creamer?
I don't think there is. There should be. Huh.
I wonder if...
I bet you there is. I don't know what it is.
I'm going to Google it now. B, if it doesn't exist and you're listening to this and you could come up with a good name, I think you should comment what that good name is.
There should be. I mean,
It feels like there should be.
There should be. Yeah. We just call our scoopers.
Which that makes sense. But what about the guy who's like making the ice cream and
Yeah, it's just the ice cream maker. But that's pedestrian. It's got to be a better name.
It's
got to be a better name.
Well, sweet. David, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming in. I love all of the people that we've talked to. It's been so much fun. These are people that are in central Minnesota. They're doing something cool, unique, and special. But none of them are making ice cream. You're making ice cream, which is so fun. So thank you for coming and talking just about that. And if you're listening and you haven't been to St. Joe, I would strongly recommend that you look up David and the Jupiter Moon team. Their ice cream is absolutely incredible. What James would tell you is that you should do either a double scoop, or if your dad won't let you have a double scoop, you should do a split single of chocolate and lemon poppy seed.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, David, we always close with our unpaid ad. Is there someone or something that you think deserves a shout out today?
I do. So we talked about being important in Central Minnesota. And so I'm going to call out Paramount for the Arts.
Okay.
In particular, there's Bob right there. Downstairs, the Pottery Studio.
Okay.
I have fond feelings for the Pottery Studio down there. I don't know. Do you ever thrown pots?
In the last episode of Chit Chat, we had Desi Murphy on.
Excellent.
Who is a wonderful
Desi's
potter.
Wonderful, yeah.
And her and I shared this love of how in high school there's a chance that we were actually there at the same time.
Fantastic.
Pots in high school.
Fantastic. Well, I took a class down there to throw pots. Like 2016, 2017. Yeah. So it was a tough time for me personally in my life. And it became something that was really important to me. And I learned a lot about how to be a person in a new paradigm because of pottery.
Sweet.
And I think that everybody who needs something, it's a great place to go, and such a supportive crew down there.
That's wonderful.
So I called them out.
Well, sweet. And my unpaid ad for the day is for the art crawl. The art crawl has had a little hiatus for the last, I don't even know how long it's been, but it's getting ready to kick off, and I should have the date in front of me.
It's August 23rd, I think.
Friday. It's second to last Friday.
Is it? I think
August.
it's a Saturday this year.
Oh.
Because they're going to do it the same day they're doing Common Roots.
Okay.
And so we'll be down there.
We'll go look up at the art crawl. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
You should go to the art crawl, because hanging out in downtown St. Cloud is really, really fun. And you can go see my friend David and go get some really delicious ice cream.
And Common Roots means you're going to see a lot of music that day too.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Well, sweet. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.